Good afternoon, and welcome to another episode of our series, Knock Knock, Who's There? Help Me. I'm gasping for air. Dana is co-hosting with me again today. She has been a little under the weather, so we're wishing her great wishes and speedy recovery. And I'm just going to start out saying, oh my God, I've been reading your book.
Well, I finished your book, and I'm going to say, oh my God, too, for anybody that hasn't, because I've heard the stories. I've seen the evidence that you've shared with me prior to the book's release. But that's a big, there was a lot of oh my God moments in it because it's just stuff that you would not, I believe you because I know you and I trust you, and I know you wouldn't say anything that wasn't true. But when you see it, and it's right in front of you in text messages and emails and pictures. Oh my God. Like you just can't believe that somebody would be so calculated and so disgusting and so manipulative and cruel and all the things that these narcissists in our lives, really, in fact, are. People
Yeah.
don't see it, though. People don't see it because they save all that stuff for that one special person, or maybe there's a special few. And we have been so fortunate
Lucky,
as to experience that multiple times over in our lives. But
right?
that is why we're here and why we now have the gift of knowledge to share with everybody.
Right? And not to mention, and you've seen some of the photos of Grandpa at the table with another woman in front of Faith, and
Being
you could
fed
tell
by
by
a woman that's not his wife in front of his granddaughter on
right,
purpose, by the
right, being
way.
fed, and then there's one where I don't know how you can misconstrue it. That could you tell that there was one where there was some kissing going on?
Yeah, well, I'm a big body language person, because I studied communications in college, kind of went with psychology and all that. And so nonverbal sometimes does more than verbal. And
Absolutely.
I notice verbiage, but I also notice people, the way they sit, with the way they touch their body positioning, if they're turned away, if they're leaned in comfortably. I think when I had texted you, I had said something about all of those pictures. He was way too comfortable, much more than he should be if this was just somebody he knew. That
Right.
is like, to me, there are certain parts of the body and certain ways you sit with people that express an intimacy that is saved for, like, you're my best friend, you're my sister, you're my husband or wife,
Right.
not everybody else.
Right.
And he just
Yeah.
seems like he liked the ladies, obviously. But the fact that he pointedly, intentionally used your daughter, who has been through hell and back as you have, medically, physically, and to use all that to his advantage to create opportunities and to even go so far as to engage with the professionals that were medically caring for either of you.
Right.
I mean, the man has no bounds. So
Yeah.
if anyone has not picked this up yet, you can see right behind her is part of the cover, which is amazing. But please get Narc Narc Who's There. It's unbelievable, but it's there. The truth is there, and you can't not believe it.
Right. And I heard it just such a great quote. It's like, why are you trying to silence us if we're lying? Right? Like if we're lying and because they make us out to be liars and we're
Right,
crazy and we're nuts and
right,
whatever. But if we're lying about who you are and what you're doing, why are you trying to keep us quiet?
right.
Right? Why are you trying to like keep us from speaking? But now that she totally railroaded me, but I like I was saying, her book, oh my God, like Michael will look
Oh.
at me and he'll be like, hey, I'm reading. Like, he's like, but, and her book, even before chapter one, starts right out the gate. And I'm not even going to give any little tidbit nuggets, nothing. All I'm going to say is like, when your mom started seeing your stepdad, like right off the bat, because even right in the beginning, you didn't say his name in the very first part. I was like, oh, I don't like this bastard. And, I didn't like the other one prior to him either.
Right.
But like, I'm looking and I'm reading this, and I was like, okay, I know this has to be him. But I'm reading and I'm like, oh, what a prick. Like I'm reading this and and I'm listening and I'm listening to you and we talk and I think about all the stuff you've said to me. And it is in such detail. I feel like I'm sitting there looking at a window, just trying to break the window to get through the glass to get to you to pull you out. Like that's how great she is at writing. Her writing is phenomenal. And you just literally, I feel like I'm sitting there and I cannot get through to help get this beautiful little girl out of that environment, which is what I see and feel when I'm reading this. And oh, I'm reading this about your stepdad. And I'm like, what a jerk. I wasn't about to use that word, but it
It's
was
okay.
just horrible, horrible, horrible. And your mother, it's just, and I'm not anywhere near halfway through yet. I cannot wait to I get back to this. It's like my time, in there is to read. And it's just seriously, she talks about how Narc is, got all this stuff going on. But
Yeah.
I put myself, if you haven't been in a situation, good for you. God bless you.
Yes.
And if you have, God bless you twice as much because you're in your own hell. Like when people have asked me when I'm speaking at engagements, what is it like? I tell them it's like being an asthmatic in a room with no windows or doors full of chain smokers because you can't breathe. Like you just can't breathe. You are being
Literally. Yeah.
suffocated. Right. And the way Dana does this is it literally feels like you are right there at the moment with this beautiful, beautiful, heart-filled, gorgeous little girl who is wanting nothing but love. And that is heart-wrenching for me to continue to read this because I love her and, I love her as the person she is. I didn't know her back then. But to even go back and read when you were little, 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 like you were needing that parental
Yeah.
guidance, that parental love, and not the judgment. And then I'm reading because her and I swear you would think we were cut at the cloth because
Yeah.
our stories are just like so much
Yes.
similar. And her grandmother, like the cooking and all that. I mean, it's so like authentic, and you can almost feel everybody getting together for food and having a good time, and just you know, you are so amazing as a writer. Like
Well, I appreciate that, but I can't take full credit. I went to school for journalism, and you know my personality. I'm very direct. So
yes,
I'm a very blunt. I would be good at writing news stories and just saying what it is, but this creating environments and characters and being able to put you there has been the hugest challenge for me. But it's also being coached to do it and basically pushed by my publisher. And I thank her a million times over. If Alexa is listening to me and not my Amazon Echo one, because she always thinks I'm talking to her when I'm talking to my publisher. Um, the hard part, and this ties into a lot of the issues that we've had as having been victims and now survivors, of narcissistic abuse or any abuse or trauma, is that our bodies still hold that trauma.
yes,
So having to go back in my mind into my memories and like think, okay, what did I see? What was I wearing? What was the color of the walls? What were the 1950s cabinets, those white ones with those metal handles and those big, what were they, iron or porcelain, all these things you're trying to imagine, the wallpaper, the flare-legged pants you wore with the really long pockets back in the 70s or 80s, if you're from that era. But it's like, I'm remembering the details, but my body is remembering the feelings. So my throat does close up and I
yep,
can't breathe and I get sweaty. And oftentimes, especially writing that book, I had often said it broke me, and I hate using that verbiage and that language about myself, but it did. The days I would be in bed with migraines and stomach aches after having written a scene, I just I just
yep,
couldn't. But I am grateful that, why we do what we do. I know some people that can't grasp the concept of humanity and doing for others think it's just out of vengeance or trying to make people look bad. And it's not at all why we do what we do. We write our books, we share our stories, we come on these podcasts to share what we have experienced so that other people know that we're there with you and we believe you, because
Yes.
nobody believed us. And we too, at one point, thought this was just happening to us. Nobody else could possibly be experiencing this, because
Right.
you almost start gaslighting yourself, doubting
Yes.
yourself, like there's no way, like this can't be happening. Maybe I'm misunderstanding something. Maybe because nobody else sees this person that way. Nobody else sees the monster that I'm seeing. They don't treat other people this way. But that's also where you start internalizing the shame, and that crazy making, that self-doubt gets
Right.
established. And then they're more effective when they're gaslighting you and manipulating, and this confusion about who you are and who they are, and what your reality even is. No wonder they think we're nuts, because it is a lot to negotiate. I mean, and imagine doing that when you're 4 or 5 years old, never mind 40 or 50 and every age in between. It's a freaking mind F. Forgive me for saying it, but every person I've ever talked to about narcissism that has experienced the severity of its abuse, that is the one word we can all definitively agree upon. That is the first word that defines narcissistic abuse, is the mind F.
It
That
is.
is what it is.
It is. It is 1,000,000%. And you go back and you think about, like, we go back so many times as a survivor of abuse, and they say we go back to our attacker. Well, I realized I didn't go back to idiot. I went back to my parents, and they were my first,
Yeah.
they were my first. And I go back and look and look and look and think about all this. And I was telling Michael, I was like, I could write another book just
Yeah.
behind this one, because there was so much I didn't want to put in, just like you, because I didn't want to hurt, like, I didn't want to hurt Josh. And people say, oh, are you doing this for revenge? Well, if I was doing it for revenge, there wouldn't be any redaction. Number one,
Right.
there wouldn't be
Right.
any redaction. Number two, I would be playing the audios that I have,
Mm-hmm.
on my
I've got
social
them
media
too.
with millions of followers. I'd be out there, putting it out there and saying, hey, here. But it's not. And what people don't understand that haven't been in our position is that we're not being vengeful. We're saying, hey, we have a voice and we're going to freaking use it.
Yeah.
We're going to let you know that they fear us the most because we know the truth. And that's why they belittle us. That's why they make
100%.
us out to be this horrific person that doesn't care about anybody but themselves. We get quote unquote ownership to all of their mistakes because they cannot do anything wrong, nor
Right.
could they ever genuinely apologize. They could be on fire and they're still not going to apologize. It doesn't matter.
Right.
It's beneath them and they're not going to do it. They think they are holier than thou, and it's just everybody owes them. And it was like with Faith, he made it seem like, if she wanted 5 minutes with him, she owed him because his time was worth more, and that's horrific. You
That's
don't have
narcissism, though.
right,
Narcissists feel entitled. They
right.
are entitled in their mind. And the irony is that some of them actually do feel entitled. Like your father, my stepfather, there are those, textbook narcissists that truly do think they are better than everyone else that deserve to be treated as such. They are the exception to every rule. But then there are some, like my ex, that those covert narcissists that actually are so tiny, itty bitty insecure inside that they just put on the air of entitlement and arrogance. So, kind of hoping to receive the same reflected back towards them because they need that. Their ego needs that. So it's very interesting. But at the end of the day, they all work in some similar way. They
Mhm.
do the same things. They say the same things. They all work. And that's the one thing that anybody that has anything to say in the field of narcissism, and that you and I have agreed on, it's all the same. That's why you see, on social media, on podcasts, everything, it might be a different situation, different person, different circumstances, but it's the same crap over and over and over and over, which for us is a good thing because you and I are now older and wiser, and we see this stuff well before it's coming, and we
Yes,
can't be fooled anymore.
right.
Whereas, like for me, I had the king of all narcissists that was raising me, and then I married a covert because it hit me differently. Sensed it, knew it wasn't right, felt the same, couldn't be sure. It just hit me differently while I learned my lesson.
Yeah.
And I don't know. They say I see different things. There's 5 different narcissists. There's 20 different, I don't care how many number of narcissists are there. An a-hole is an a-hole. That's what I say at the end of the day. And abuse is abuse. So if somebody is intentionally harming you, and the key is intention, take it for what it is. But if you want to be in that kind of relationship, and I'm sorry, believe me, I'm sorry if it's your mother or God forbid your kid or whoever, it sucks. I know too well,
Yeah. Yeah,
but it's
absolutely.
not good for you. It's not good for
It's
your mind. It's not good for your physical health. Toxicity has to be cut out like a tumor.
Have you ever listened to the Dr. Laura show?
Every now and then, I know you have a good story about that.
Yeah, I know. I'm not even going to tell the story, but
Okay.
I listen to her every now and again, and I'm dumbfounded because she's supposed to be like PhD, really.
Yeah.
But then she's like, there's no such thing as a narcissist. People throw that word around so many times. If you're the child of someone you think is a narcissist, you need to go make amends because you don't know how long they're going to be here on the planet. And it's like
Oh,
they're
no.
the parent, and I think this way, regardless of what she says. If they're the parent and we're the child, I don't care if we, as you and I, and we are parents ourselves,
Yes.
we're still their child, unfortunately. And they should do right and come to us. And they're the ones who made this bet, and they're choosing to not make things correct. And at the end of the day, like with the revolving door of my quote unquote father, I mean, it's just like revolving door women, but who's going to take care of him at the end when no one's around, right? Like, who's going to be there? This man can't boil water for himself. And yet
I know.
you just think, oh, okay, well, I'm just going to keep that door open and that door open and let these women come through. And I mean, you read these emails that I put in there, like from my best friend that I knew since preschool and her
Yes.
sister, but they had different last names because mom had remarried and
Yes.
took the last name. And then when the sister was born, it was her half sister, she took the name of her dad. And he badmouthed her and had no idea, but they grew up coming over to my house. Like,
Yeah.
and he was like, oh, have you seen You Got Mail?
Yeah.
It's just, and then I realized I go back and think about like, I used to apologize for other people's behavior that would set him off. And what he would do to me when someone did something to him is I would get
Yes.
silent treatment. And it would be so obvious. I mean,
Oh my
imagine,
gosh. Yes.
imagine being somewhere and he would be like, tell her this. I'm standing 3 feet away. He wouldn't even look at me, talk to me, nothing. Tell her this for me. And I'm like, do you know how dumb you sound right now? I'm standing across from you. Like, you're not even
Well,
going
I
to.
didn't even get that, but I did. That brought to mind multiple situations for me. And I'm talking not just in my childhood, as an adult when we were still in contact, because somebody I knew, not even like a friend, I think it was like a friend's husband who happened to be a contractor. So, like, I had nothing to do with it, wasn't part of but somebody had said something about him that he didn't like, but I was paying the price for it. I think it was 3 weeks at that point of silent, but I didn't get silent treatment where he spoke around me passive
Mhm.
aggressively, third party. It was, and I want people to understand because I know you got this type too. When I got silent treatment, it was, I mean, I don't know if you've gotten there in the book. There's a time or two where I get in my mother's face, like I am screaming
Good.
every profanity just to provoke her to just fucking look at me. Just
Yeah.
look at me and see me.
See me. Like,
Acknowledge
really.
my presence.
Yeah.
Nothing.
Yeah.
Zombie face. No words, not even a flinch in the eye, won't even meet my eye contact. So when I got silent treatment, and I'm talking from the time I was a little girl, 5 years old maybe, oh my God. I mean, to make a child, if you are such a disgusting adult human being that can make a child feel like they literally do not exist and that they are not even worthy of common courtesy of, I don't know, putting a plate of dinner for them at the table or talking to them. I mean,
Yeah.
weeks. And they called me crazy and sensitive and overly emotional when I would be in my room in fetal position crying. wondering why the hell I was even existent,
Right.
wishing as a little girl that maybe I just didn't live anymore.
And we didn't ask to come onto this life, you know? People need to remember that. Like we were a result of an action, you know?
Exactly. But that's the whole premise, and you'll get there if you haven't gotten already, choking on shame. And that was the whole thing with my mother, is that she didn't want kids, and here I was. And so she still to this day, and I'm 48 years old, to this day, she will not take accountability for having willingly participated in the act that created my existence. And it's just like, I'm here. I'm like, I have a
Yeah,
kid of my own. Like, I mean, let it go. You know,
yeah,
open your legs. You made me. Forgive me, anyone, if I'm being crude, but I mean, this is how I feel I need to be, because I mean, at some point, okay, maybe you didn't intend for it to happen. Teenage pregnancies happen. I get it. But gosh darn, I
yeah.
mean, to diminish an entire human being and steal the opportunity, especially when there are so many people in this world, number one, who cannot have children, that would
Right.
love any child to
Absolutely.
raise and love as their own, to that would love to add to their family of biological children or adopted children. I mean, I honestly grew up envying Orphan Annie. I loved that movie because I thought, gosh, if I could even live in an orphanage and have all those,
Girlfriend.
non-biological sisters that we could
Yeah.
sing and dance, and because I was
Yeah.
a singer and a dancer, and I just thought what a wonderful life that would be. I could even put up with Mrs. Hannigan. Like, she didn't bother me any. She was nothing compared to what I dealt
Right?
with, right?
Like,
Exactly.
yeah, I watched Sleeping with the Enemy and I'm like, that's the best they got. Like, they think this is so scary, you know, like dun dun dun, the
Yeah.
cans are facing the one direction. And I'm like, that's a 2 a.m. on a Monday for me. That's like,
Exactly. But you know what the saddest part is when we're talking about child abuse? Because I think, and for anybody that's listening that really doesn't buy into the narcissism thing, just take the narcissism out of it. Narcissistic abuse was when a narcissist abuses you, but it's still physical abuse, verbal, emotional, psychological, sexual sometimes. Find it. There's so many different types of abuses, and abuse is abuse. And you cannot
yes,
deny that. I don't care who's abusing you. But what people don't get, and this is statistics from, I should have actually written it down, but this is our own government putting this statistic out, that 38% of all US children currently
mm-hmm,
have experienced at least
at
one
least.
incident of domestic violence or abuse before the age of 18. And then they say more than half of all US children have experienced more than that.
Yeah,
That's not okay with me at
absolutely not.
all.
Right, right.
And I mean, we can arguably remove some things that are, I mean, I hate to say that something isn't abuse, because if somebody is affected and hurt by something, I mean, outs I don't want to be one of those people that diminishes anything that's not
Yeah, but you're
physical.
not one of those people.
I'm not, but I want to be sensitive to somebody who might be listening. But aside, even if you pull out the things that might be, that are teetering on the edge of whether they could really be considered abuse, and whether it's just somebody being a little too sensitive, as I have often been accused of being, I feel like that number is still way too high, because that
Absolutely.
many children in as large of a country as we are should not be experiencing this much trauma. And then we wonder the direct correlation to the incidence of depression, the incidence of anxiety, that this is Suicide Prevention Awareness Month. I mean,
Yep.
what happens when people are suicidal? Everyone thinks it's a mental health issue. No, it's not a mental health issue. I will argue that all day long, and I will have doctors tell me I'm wrong. It is a sadness and loneliness issue. It is people who honestly have been just exiled,
Yeah.
banished, diminished, made to feel insignificant, so much so that they feel that they are alone, even though there might be people in their life that care very much about them and would do anything to make sure they didn't feel that way. The people primarily responsible, namely parents, siblings, spouses, kids, whatever, people close to you, are making them feel like they don't matter.
Yeah,
That
absolutely.
is not mental health. That is a problem with the way people treat each other. And I don't blame people. I have been one of those people. Even this year, I have had an issue where I just felt like I just don't want to feel this hurt and this pain anymore. And so I understand when somebody gets to that point, but this isn't just, like I said, about narcissistic abuse or depression or mental health or suicide. It all goes together. And so we can't ignore it. And so I want people to listen more openly, even if you haven't experienced narcissistic abuse or any abuse yourself. Please don't underestimate what somebody tells you or the things that we're saying or the statistics, because it's very real and it's very prevalent in this world.
It is.
Even looking at romantic relationships, they say 1 in 4 women, or I'm sorry, 1 in 4 men and 1 in 3 women
Yes.
are in a toxic relationship.
The
That's
numbers are
scary.
higher in the military, by the way.
Numbers are higher, yes, and among the police forces and such. And you unfortunately know this too well. And, that kind of goes along with the death rates. 38%, it's the same number as the child abuse. 38% of all women murdered are murdered by their partner.
Yeah.
Why would
And when
any
you try to
woman want
leave,
to go out on a date? Oh
yeah.
my God.
And when you try
When
to
the
leave, that's
odds
the most
are,
dangerous.
that
Yeah.
is the most dangerous.
Yeah.
The
Absolutely.
two most domestic violent incidents that I had with my ex happened after our divorce. So, like I told my son, it was just a piece of paper that ended, separated our finances. It did not end that relationship, because if there was a piece of paper for that, boy, I would have had that done first. I don't
Yeah.
care about the finances.
Right. No, absolutely. And
Oh,
what really got to me, Dana, is that, like, imagine, I tell people, close your eyes and imagine being 8 years old and having your mother say, I wish I had miscarried you. I
yes.
wish that, you were the one I miscarried. And that's horrible. And then, when Faith was born, we were in the NICU for months and months and months. They said she wouldn't make it. I became very close with the chaplain, and she was coding every day. She had seizures every day. We ended up trachologically dependent. And they were a mile and a half from the hospital. Like, in order to go anywhere, they had to pass on the main street. And they lived off of the same street that the hospital was on, hand to God. And they didn't come in. Now, when my half sister, they didn't meet Faith till she was 3.5 months old. When my half sister had her baby, her first, um, she didn't know how to do anything. And so my biological mother went and stayed with her for like a couple of weeks to help her get acclimated. And I'm so glad, but this baby was perfectly healthy and had nothing going on. And so she stayed. Well, then when she had, and I don't know her kids, when she had her second son, and he had an ear infection, she could not take both boys to the doctor. Like, she's like, I can't manage my one son who's fine and the other who has an ear infection. So my mother would drive like an hour up there to her house and help her take them to the doctor. And I'm like, I'm walking around with a dislocated face and a dislocated shoulder and a broken foot. And I have 11 pieces of medical equipment, from a pulse oximeter to an apnea belt to a tracheostomy emergency bag to a feeding bag to the feeding pump to the feeding. I mean, and I'm carrying it all myself, and I can't get help going to the doctor. And it's not a freaking ear infection. Like, that is what I was used to. And so it's really hard. And I've told people that, if you haven't been through anything like we have, then imagine your worst day. Like, somebody cut you off on the way home, and you got in a fight with your spouse, and you got arguments going with your loved ones. And this just goes on and on. And you think your day can't get any worse. Dana and I could take that one. Well, I was going to say one handed, but that's kind of a pun. But like, we could literally, I mean, that's like an easy day for
Yeah.
us. Like, we would just be like, that's the best you got. Like, that's what you're throwing at us today. Like, woo, we got a day off. Like, that would be our day off.
And
And
that's the thing about it. And that's what people don't get, because I know that when we got out of our relationships, and this is common for anybody that comes out of an abusive relationship, is, well, if it was that bad, why did you stay? And just yesterday on a podcast, and actually it was an amazing podcast that I did with this woman, and she did not mean it offensively. She was genuinely asking, 25 years? How long? I mean, she's like, even good relationships don't sometimes last 25 years. How did you stay? And I told her because most of the stuff was just like any other Tuesday.
Yeah,
Sometimes the
that was
stuff
our
was much
normal.
more dramatic, but sometimes it wasn't as bad, but the as bad was relative because
Right,
as time went on, I always explain it that it's interesting. They see what they can get away with. You know, it's like dipping your toes in the water.
right,
They test you out in the beginning. And even we who have very loose boundaries or seemingly have none at all, I was definitely one of those people for a long time. There is a point when you feel, people don't understand that uneasiness that you feel, whether it's a low level, like, I don't know about this, to a high level panic and anxiety. That is okay. It's not unhealthy. That is your inner smoke detector going off saying something is not right here. But they know where that boundary is, even if it's far out there. And every time they do something, they just put their toe just over that edge to
yep,
where they know it's gonna poke at you a little. You're gonna feel that disease, literally. And we wonder why mental health develops into physical, but they get away with it because
yep.
it's not a deal breaker. But
Mhm.
it's like I tell people, how do you get from point A to point B? Because, one year, 10 years ago, you weighed this much. And how did you gain 25 pounds in the last five or 10 years? It's the same thing with the abuse. It's just a little more, little worse every time. Putting an extra toe over the edge this time. Maybe I'm going to step totally over the edge and we're going to have a real big dramatic domestic violent event today. And then we're going to pull back a little so then it doesn't seem so bad when I do this to you and swing something at your head or throw something across the room or drag your, overly medicated body into the bathroom and leave you there and whatever. Hopefully you won't wake up. I mean, it sounds dramatic to people, but to us, it's a level of severity. And if we can keep it on low level stuff, that's a good day for us. And we get used to it.
Right. And
Sad.
you get used to hearing every day, like, you are not my type. People feel bad that I'm with you. You're ugly, you're hideous, nobody would ever want you. It's like when you find that happiness and you have that person in your life and they make you so happy and they tell you how beautiful you are and that they love you and you hear it all the time, you believe them. Well, it's the same thing because these are the most charismatic people who are charming, and they will find that one part of you that they know is missing and they placate on it. Like, that is okay. Like, mine was, I wanted children and I wanted that family, and I had lost a child. And so it was, oh, you want children? Well, I've always wanted children, and I really, because I've been traveling so much with the military and this and that and the other. And I was like, but I don't even think you're cute. Like,
Yeah.
and it was, oh, you can maybe fall in love with them later. I told him I wasn't in love with him. And it was, well, you're, still hung up on your ex, who's now my husband. And it's just, you hear it every single day. And you get to the point where, it's almost like studying for a test where you know the material and you know what's coming. Like, you know what test is
Oh,
coming.
absolutely.
And you sit there and it's, and people don't get it because we literally sit there and go, why didn't I have that food on the table 2 minutes earlier? But it doesn't matter because 2 minutes earlier, it might have been not cooked enough, and then you're going to get it anyway. So it doesn't
Right.
matter if the house is immaculate, you look a certain way, you're doing everything to the book. And you know what? Someone could cut him off on the way home. Someone could, you know, get
It
mad at him
doesn't
at work.
matter.
It doesn't matter. We are his fighting playground. He's going to come back and take it out on us because that's what he does. And that's what we're accustomed to. And that's just what we get used to. And then if we try to leave and we don't have that support, I mean, they are very, I hate to say good because I don't ever want to give them a
They
compliment,
really are, though. They're
but they are.
crafty.
They
Yeah.
take away our friends, they take away our socialization, they take away where we go. Like, if I wanted to go get my hair done, I had to call from the salon so that he could see on caller ID that I was there, and I had to bring a receipt home, and
I was gonna say the receipts.
he knew how long it would take me to get from point
Yeah.
A to point B. And like, I worked a good hour plus from home without traffic. And my favorite day of the week was Monday because I wasn't going to be with him. And I had to make certain calls at certain points on the way back because he would
Yes.
be getting rid of his women that were in the house. And it doesn't matter. There's no excuse why you're not doing what you're supposed to do. Like it is that meticulous. And then you go back and you watch these things and you're like, oh, just like the movie Enough with you watch it
Oh,
or
yes,
you
yes,
sit there and
yes,
watch it and you're just like looking and you're going, that's like a blessing for us. Like we look at that and it's,
yes.
but then I won't reveal the guest because she told me this off air. She's a very famous lady, wonderful, wonderful lady. I just thought the world of her. And she said to me, I survived a domestic violence situation and I've not been very public about it. But I will tell you that like being in the limelight of the Hollywoodism, you have to maintain a certain appearance. You have to maintain your physicality. You have to
Mhm.
maintain that you can't even go out to the mailbox without your makeup on and your face on and your hair done. And, and she was like, it costs a ridiculous amount of money. And you have all these people and, you have to always be dressed and ready to go. And she was like, it's a facade. And it's the same kind of thing. Like you are expected to be this way and you have to maintain this composure and you have to go out there and you have to like, oh, you're 3 pounds too heavy. I'm gonna go on Ozempic, and it's like,
Yes.
are you kidding? And it's the same thing as being still in an abusive situation because there's this protocol that has to be followed, that you have to be a certain way or you get ridiculed. And a lot of people don't see that. But then they're so quick to say, oh, I saw so and so. She looked horrible. And it's, oh, she's got to be going through something. No, she just didn't spend 6 hours in a chair putting
Right.
on her face and her hair and her, extensions. But, in today's world, day to day, there's so many ways to not even look like who we are. You can do, hair
Oh my
extensions and
gosh.
eye extensions
Yes.
and eye color contacts and tattooing makeup. And,
All the
there's
filters. Look at the
right.
filters that are out there. And like even last week, my grandma called me and she said she saw something on Facebook or whatever. She's like, "Oh, I saw you on a podcast and you dyed your hair black." I'm like, "No, actually, it's a lot lighter, and because I've been out in the summer sun, and but it's perception." I'm like, "It's just lighting, and it's all makeup and bull." I said, "It's bull crap. It's all bull crap."
Yeah. Yeah.
But like I told you, I mean, if I didn't do this, like especially today, I'd look like the girl crawling out of the TV in The Ring, and nobody wants to see that.
But
But
look
no,
bad
but
in a paper bag. I don't
I
care
know
what you
you
say.
say that all the time. But see, here's an
I mean it.
interesting thing. Here's an interesting thing, because you commented on how, your looks were ridiculed. And oh, my stepfather was awful at that. I've been for the last year, I am going to give myself a pat on the back because in the last year I have worked so hard and I've kind of kept this under wraps to work out an eating disorder at 48 years old that I have had since I was 12 years old. And I have gained 10 pounds in the last year. And, I worried that my husband wouldn't find me attractive and my clothes weren't fitting and I could see like my face filling out and I have a little bit of a stomach now. And it, I'm so glad for people that make me feel good about who I am on the inside. Like they think I'm funny. They think I'm smart. They like my personality because this focus with narcissists on the looks. But here's where it got interesting. My stepfather, typical narcissist, criticized my looks. I mean, I'm 6 years old eating a peanut butter and jelly, and he's telling me I'm going to be fat like a middle-aged woman. I remember being 20 years old in college, and he told me my hips were spreading and I'm going to look like my grandma soon. He was just so freaking obnoxious my whole life. It was no wonder I had an eating disorder. But when I married my ex, so here was the irony. The only thing he would ever tell me, the only compliment that man would ever give me, and it was 20 times a day. Oh, you're so beautiful. You're so pretty. He would text me, hey, beautiful, hey, beautiful, hey, big. It was always the beautiful thing. And I always worried because I'm like, well, not always going to look like this. I mean, you want to be pretty to the person you're with. You want to feel attractive. It makes you feel good about yourself. But I was like, what happens when I'm not? What happens when I'm 70 or 80 or 90 and my skin starts wrinkling and my hair starts falling out? Or God forbid I get cancer and lose all my freaking hair. What then? What
Yeah.
happens when I end up in a wheelchair and I gain 50 pounds because I can't run 5 miles a day like I like to do? what happens then? Is he still going to love me? Is he still going to like me? And, you know, I would express this to him because I think that's a reasonable thing that you want to know. You want the reassurance that this
Yeah.
person actually does love you, not just for the facade and what you look
Yes.
like. And what did he do before we were married, after, till the end, till the bitter end? Cheated on me constantly. And he wasn't even shy about it. He would tell me, he would come home and tell me, oh, I was just at this bar with my friend and this girl put her hand down my pants and she was doing this to me and I was making out with this one for 3 hours and I went and effed this one and and he had told me a few times it's because he wanted to make sure I knew he had options, that I needed to know what I had. And he even would tell me sometimes that maybe he would say, well, next time I'm going to marry a fat girl, a fat ugly chick, because then she'll be happy with me, she'll know what she has, she'll treat me like the king that I deserve to be treated like. And to take somebody that you're calling beautiful and that you're saying, oh, you're beautiful, really pumping this person up as he was with me, and then crippling me, what does that say? That means, okay, my physical appearance isn't enough. So then
Right.
so then that's validating exactly what my worry was. And so I was trying so hard still. I mean, he would tell me after I after I had our son, I mean, when you have a newborn baby, you look like a snot rag for the first few months, if not longer,
Yeah.
You're just trying to get through the day, nap when you can, whatever. And he'd come home from work and say, my God, you know what time I'm come home from work? Why can't you get your makeup and hair done and at least put clothes on that are,
No.
and even after I had multiple miscarriages with him, but even after I had another miscarriage, after multiple, why can't you just have a baby like every other woman in this world? And just diminishing
Yeah.
every sense of me. And I mean, any little tiny insecurity, they take it and just, I mean, not just stick the dagger in, they twist it and twist it. I just told somebody recently, it's like if somebody throws you, like if you're hanging by a rope off a ledge, hanging on for dear life, and they're looking you in the eyes saying, I love you, and cutting that rope and letting you fall. That's what it feels like to be with a
Yes.
narcissist, whether it's your mother, your husband, your whoever. It's awful. It's excruciating pain, the betrayal. And I think that's what it is the betrayal trauma that you're healing from when you're going through that. But you're also dealing with the physical things going on inside your body because the mental always manifests into physical. I mean, we
Mhm.
cannot deny that, but it's a lot. It's really a lot. And it just pains me that there are still people out there, as we said in the beginning, I get challenged all the time on different social media. Oh, I don't buy into this narcissism thing. Okay. Well, the reality is we can give you a list of a million things that narcissistic traits. At the end of the day, it's two things. They have no empathy. They could give
Right.
a flying F about you or anyone else. They are
No.
out for number one, and that's them.
None.
Not even their own children come ahead of them. And two, no remorse
Right.
whatsoever. They absolutely 100% feel justified and validated in doing what they're doing, and they know exactly what they're doing.
Right. I would add one more. I would say they have absolutely no respect for boundaries.
Yeah,
Yeah, because I learned that a lot with Faith.
very
Like,
true.
yeah, I would definitely say that. I mean, who brings, oh, I'm gonna go grab a bite to eat with the girls, and then there's a woman that shows up. That's why I always drove, always. And I mean, always I've always been the one that drives because I'll get up and leave. Like, I'm not here for
Yeah.
this, I'm just not, I'm not gonna be here for this. It's and then to see like him being all attentive to a toddler, like a toddler, and not even say or
A
spend any
toddler of a
time.
woman he's trying to screw, by the
Right,
way, who
right.
is also your doctor.
No, she was my
Or
therapist,
your therapist. Okay,
my
but she
hand
was true.
therapist, my
Yes.
physical therapist. Yes.
But
My physical
still, and then just like ignoring, like he didn't even try with his own grandchild,
no,
with Faith,
nothing to do with
who is a most beautiful, precious gift to this world. But I mean, I don't care if she was like the child of Satan. That's his grandchild,
it. Right. And the
Oh
girl,
my gosh.
this particular woman was at least maybe give or take a couple years, at least 10 years younger than me.
That sounds like my grandfather. My grandma's husband. Oh my gosh. I only met him literally a handful of times in my life, but the stories, but yeah, he was always he often in my adult life I would hear that he was with some woman or engaging with some woman intimately that had children younger than my son and that she was much younger, half my age sometimes. And I was like, I mean, some of them were underage, and I'm like, you're a 60, 70-year-old man. Like, ew.
Yeah.
And what do these women want with
Thank
that?
you, money. But like I
What?
can't
Right, right.
imagine. Like and that's the one thing that really sets us out is that like you and I can never understand the mindset of these people because we're not them. We're not like
Yeah,
them.
thank God. Yeah.
Thank God. So like I would sit there and look at these two and it would be like they would rub it in my face like teenage kids that weren't allowed to date. And I looked at them and I'm looking at her and I'm like, what do you see? I mean, let's just give a number because hypothetically she was 34, 35, around,
Okay.
and just around. And he's in his 70s. And like you look and it's like, and Faith is a riot. She's freaking hysterical. You can't take this kid anywhere without your face hurting. Guys, when they would show up, she'd be like, I need a senior citizen menu and a kids menu and two bibs because they're both at the age to drool. And that's what
I
she would
love
say.
that. I
It's
love it.
hilarious. But like you sit there and you look and you're just like, that's disgusting. I mean,
That is.
that is like generational, like, and
And
there's,
I mean, like, I have daddy issues. I'm gonna admit.
well,
My
we both
husband
do.
now is 11 years older than me, and I mean, I'm sorry. I look at him and I mean, I love the gray hair in his chest and all that. It's just hot stuff to me. I love the belly and like the whole thing.
But
I
how,
like
what's the
it
age
all
difference
up.
in you two?
11 years.
That's
So it's not
nothing.
awful. I know it's not awful, especially when you're older. It's not that big of a difference. But I do know people who have left their wives, left their children to be with somebody significantly, much more than 11 years difference, significantly younger. And I mean, I remember that there was one specific time I knew the couple very well, and he ran off with their kid's nanny. Who was much, much, much younger. And I think she was just 18 or 19.
No.
And he's like, I don't understand why anybody has an issue with me being happy. And I remember looking at him and I said, look, I don't agree with what you're doing, but I said, you need to start thinking with something other than the one body part. Because I said, let's be real. I said, just double her age. I said, was she 18 now? When she is 36 in 18 years, you're going to be what? Like, I mean, do you think she wants to be that age and like changing your diaper and wiping the crap off your ass? I mean, I don't mean that rudely. When you love somebody, and I am not judging, and I'm going to say this very clearly. I I believe that if you love somebody, you love somebody, and the age doesn't matter. And are there couples that they could be 60 years apart? I don't care. If you truly love each other and then that's great. But unfortunately, in this world, I don't trust that that's usually the case when it's a
Right.
very young woman who is being given a Mercedes convertible to drive around in and a great big house by the man that was willing to leave his wife and kids, and everything he has to get a little young stuff. Um, I don't know. I don't know what these men are thinking, but they're thinking in the moment and they're thinking it looks good on their arm and it looks good on social media and they're going with it. But again, they honestly they have no capacity to think outside themselves. It's about what they're getting and that's all that matters. But I
I
saw
didn't.
that with your dad. And I
Oh,
think that the most appalling thing with all, I mean, because unfortunately, maybe it's because I've been surrounded by infidelity my whole life and experienced it. And, you know, the one thing in your book that stood out to me was when you had that special weekend away with Faith, and she was having, it was what, the night before her surgery, I believe,
we were going away for the weekend, coming back late Sunday night,
before
and the
her
surgery
surgery.
was like Tuesday.
Right. And he just wanted to come along. And then
Last
suddenly
minute.
this woman shows up and then she has her kid and he kept trying to pawn this kid off on you
Hmm.
with faith. And I mean,
And there's
when
pictures.
and there's pictures, but I just don't comprehend. The last thing I would ever want to do, number one, even if Faith had been born healthy and required no surgeries and what have you have a young child. They have a
Mhm.
lot of energy. They require a lot of supervision and attention. And after everything you've been through, Lord, give you a damn break. Like, he should have been, if he wanted to really be there with you, he should have been tending to you and spending time with the two of you, playing games, going out to eat, whatever, being with the two of you, his daughter and his one granddaughter. Instead, he has a woman and he's trying to pawn off her very young, what was it, a toddler, 3 years old or something?
Not even. No, she was like
I'm
two.
not two, a toddler who requires that much more energy and attention and time onto you to take care of so he can go. I mean, he didn't say it, but obviously he was trying to get some with this woman who wasn't his wife, that was not even invited, and basically like intervened on this whole, just totally disrupted this special planned trip you had with your daughter. It was just, that just really affected me. I mean, there was so much more appalling stuff in the book, but I think I was like, oh, yeah,
Yeah.
but that was just like, my God, you will go to no end to make sure, forgive me for being vulgar, but to stick your dick in this woman.
Thank you.
Like,
Right.
you can't wait till her lunch hour on Wednesday and go pick her up for lunch and take her to one of those motels where they charge you by the half hour. Jesus Christ.
Oh, remember, but he even got his wife to help build the toddler's Christmas presents.
Oh
Or,
my God, that's
you know,
right.
but
That's
what
right.
was horrible, and I didn't put it in the book because, you know, yes, a lot of it is humiliating for both of us, but if it helps somebody, then it makes a difference. But I didn't want to put so much of like my surgical history in there, but I have a shoulder replacement. Like my left shoulder has been completely replaced. And so I was always chesty and I had to get a breast reduction. And I did not want to put that in there because it seemed a little personal. But so I had to go get a breast reduction. And my dad sits there and says to me, "Why are you going to do this? Men want a redheaded woman with big boobs." And there are certain words I will not say. And he didn't call them boobs. And I was like, listen,
I got it.
it is wildly inappropriate for you to have this conversation with me. Like, I don't want to hear it. So he's like, "What size are you going down to?" Okay, again, not having this conversation with you. Like, this is disgusting, and I'm not having this conversation with you.
Yeah.
And he was like, "But if you're gonna be all scarred up, at least have where somebody has stuff to play with." And I was like, if I had my way, I'd be like a surfboard flat. Like, there is not a man alive that after everything I went through that I want to carry boobs around for, and I was like, because I can't have any more kids and Faith can't be breastfed. So guess what? Take them. Give me, I would love to walk around without a bra. Thank you. And so I said, I'm not having this conversation with you. Well, after I had the surgery and I came home and was taking care of Faith and everything else, a few weeks later, he was like, "So how small did you go?" And I was like, "I am not, for the love of God, I'm not having this conversation with you." And I called my best friend who had not passed away yet, obviously. And she goes, "Have you ever thought that maybe he had thoughts of you intimately?" I was like, "I hate you. Like, why would you even, never in my life did I ever think about that." And she was like, "But what parent in their right frame of
Yeah.
mind or not right frame of mind would say to their kid, what size are your breasts? And what are the scars like?" And, you're like, this is so uncomfortable. Why
I
would you
know,
do
but it's
this?
not that far off base, because that's how some of these people are. It is awful. I know, I know, I know.
Right?
It
But then I
is.
was like, I don't even
It
want to,
is, but
I didn't
they
want to
are
look at him
so,
before. But now I
and
definitely don't want to look at him.
it's interesting too, because a lot of the times, I mean, I saw, even though you were kind enough to cover faces and stuff, I mean, you could get enough of a glimpse of him, and I mean, there was nothing that I would, you know.
He would have gone nuts for you.
Well, he wouldn't have gotten very far. 20-year-old Dana maybe would have been like, oh, and been naive, but this Dana, this new Dana doesn't know. It would have got the second his mouth opened to say hello. I would have just stuffed it with a dildo or something. But it's interesting how physically focused they are when they are not very much to look at.
And see, he thought he was God's gift to women. He
That's what
always,
baffles me. Yet, like I go back to like my ex always saying how beautiful, and even my stepdad, one time in my life, he actually said something nice to me, and guess what it was? He told me I looked pretty that day. It was at a Christmas. I was like, oh, and he even wanted to take my picture, which, felt a little off, but
awkward. Yeah.
yeah, but thank God I was never sexually, there was never any of that. I thank God for that every day. But I don't know, it's just weird to me because even when I look back, like my stepdad and my mom were very far apart in age. Well, probably similar to me and my husband, somewhere around that 11-year mark. But when I looked at him, like on their wedding day, he was what, 33, 34, 35, something like that. And I
Mhm.
mean, she looked like a baby, my mother. She was so beautiful, but she looked like a baby. And I'm looking at them like, I mean, it's so judgmental and superficial, but his personality, I mean, you started reading the book. It's lacking. Just
Oh,
like,
right
I
from the
mean,
start.
no disrespect, but your father, after seeing your father's text messages and stuff, eh, his personality doesn't do very much to help him, his character or integrity
Right. No, but you could be a physically gorgeous person and have a really
and be a
crappy,
real dick.
and you're
Yeah.
ugly. You're so unattractive to me. But then you have someone who treats you like you deserve to be treated and they love you for who you are. They, to me, become one seriously good looking individual because
A
it's
hundred
really
percent because
fun.
it's how they make you feel and
Right.
it's the beauty of their soul. But I think that's where I'm going with this is you have these people that physically just are they're not anything that I would look at twice and their personalities suck ass. And, I'm sorry, that's not very eloquent and I'm a writer, but their
Hey,
personalities
we're
suck ass.
unfiltered here.
We're unfiltered. That's how I normally talk. When I write, I'm much more thoughtful about my verbiage, but yet people are attracted to them. And the thing is, we talk about like, women going after them for money and whatever. And my mother would probably die if she heard me say this, but I mean, it's definitely apparent to me when I look back at my childhood. She wanted a lifestyle that she didn't think she could attain on her own. And she said as much to me when we had a conversation, one of the 3 times we went no contact, that she honestly felt that without him and the resources, and when we say resources, we mean his
Between
lying and fraudulent behavior to attain things in ways that are not morally correct. Because I swear to God, he'd crush babies underfoot if it meant him getting a new Corvette or something. I swear to God. But she wanted the life, and that was ultimately what ended our relationship altogether because I begged, I pleaded, even if it's strained, even if you don't understand me, even if we disagree on so many things, I would like a mother to whatever extent I
right.
can have a mother. And she said, I cannot be your mother and his wife at the same time because he didn't want that. He had, narcissists want you all to themselves. But it was okay for her to be a mother to my brother because that was their biological child. I was not biologically his, which would have been fine if I would have played the role they had decided that I should play in the family facade. But I didn't because even as a small child, which the publisher challenged me on, but I said, no, I was that tenacious little thing that called crap out. I was kind of like your Faith. That's why I think I adore her so much. She just says what it is. And I
Yeah.
saw stuff and I called it out. And that's what they didn't like because narcissists do not, going back to how
Nope.
we started, they do not like when somebody sees them for who they really are. And if they cannot control you and manipulate you and shut you up, then boy, are you going to pay the price. And for too often, the ultimate price
Yes.
is you know how that can go. And
Yep.
it's very sad, but we're so glad that you're here and that Faith is here.
Thank
And
you.
that, I mean, I truly believe that anybody who can survive a narcissistic relationship that gets that violent, when somebody actually cares so little about you that they don't even have respect for your life and in your circumstances, your unborn baby, that how they are able to walk around on this earth free is beyond me.
Right. Absolutely, a million percent. Yeah. And like even when my mother would say to Faith, if she died on the OR table, then okay. Yeah, I mean, no
Unbelievable.
person, no man, no anyone is ever going to come between Faith and I. I don't care who they are,
Right.
who they think they're going to be. It's not going to happen. Like, if somebody does anything that hurts Faith, I like she just sits back and she's like, "This is going to be good." Like she's had nurses that we fired when we were in that situation not that long ago, and then we had nurses that wouldn't even look at the chart and we're like, "Oh, here we're going to give you morphine," and it says don't give her morphine because she didn't want it. She doesn't want any kind of narcotics. She's like me; she doesn't want any pain meds. So she was like, "I don't want anything," and she's like, "I would like something to drink. I want something to eat." And oh, the kitchen's closed, blah, 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 whatever. Go fetch a pudding. I don't care. Go do something.
Yeah.
And so, when it's like I'm the tigering mom, I'll sit there and be quiet. Come at me, come get me. That's fine. You cross that line and you come at Faith, God help you. Like that is just that's it. I mean, glove off, and she'll laugh. She'll say, "Mommy says she can't leave fingerprints. I can't leave fingerprints. I don't have a hand." So, it's kind of a funny kind of thing, but don't mess with my kid. And, she's always like, even when she was little, she's like, "You're nothing like them." And I said, "I've given you everything I ever needed and wanted from them and never received." And she was
Yeah.
like, "You're just like you were with your grandparents." And I said, "Yes, I wanted you to have that." Like I could not have my child spending, and I say this all the time, I don't want her spending her adulthood recovering from her childhood. And
Amen.
she was hilarious. She even said one time, "Why do you think he's good looking?" She asked that. She was like, "Why do you think he's good looking?" Then they're like, "He's a good looking man." And she's like, "Are you Helen Keller's brother?" That's what she asked. She was like, you know,
Oh, oh my
just,
goodness.
she's like, "I don't understand." And she's like, "I don't think he's good looking." And they're like, "Oh, he's a good looking man." And then, she reminds me of like Sophia from the Golden Girls. She would just walk
Yes,
around
yes.
and she's like, "I don't think she gets out much, Mom." And I'm like, but it
Oh
is.
goodness.
They're not attractive, and it's just mind blowing to me how like I would watch these women fall over him, and you just want to look at him and be like,
Yeah, I don't get it.
"What is wrong with you?" And the first real interaction was he had all these beautiful boats and yachts and stuff, and he had an interior designer who I won't say her name, but she was appropriately named. I'll just say that. I'll tell you
Okay.
off recording what her name was. But you know, she would come in and wear like black thongs and white capri pants, and she'd get stains on them, and she'd be like, "Oh, look, I got something here," and I'm like, "It's called chlamydia," and she would just like she would look at me and he'd be like, "You need to apologize." And I would say, "Okay, you're sorry." And he's like, "That's not
Oh
funny."
my,
And she would like bear down in front of him and put her butt
oh
up in
my God,
front.
I'm sorry. That was good.
And, and it's like, I would always say, and I would look, and, she would come up wearing this scandalous little, next to nothing. And I would be like, she looks like a bucket of chicken. Like, there's her breast, there's her thighs, there's her legs, there is the whole thing, but somebody needs to go fry it. Like, and I would tell her she'd reach across and like put her hand on his chest, and none of her pictures are in the book. This was decades before. And she would be like, "Oh, let's go get something to eat." And she would try to sit beside him. And I walked over and picked her by the back of the collar and said, "Let's go. You're going to the other side of the table. Like, you're not. No, I came here to have dinner with him. He didn't invite you." I'd even walk up to the door, and where Faith gets it. And it says no pets allowed. I'm like, "How's she getting it?" Like, I mean, this is just stuff I would say. And then she's like, "Let's share a dessert." And I'm like, "Let's get a doggy bag to go so she can actually have some food." And she would just like lean over, and it was appalling. And I told her, I said, "If you touch him again, you're going under the boat. Like, I'm going to show you how to get clean." And she just had no remorse. I'm like, "If you're like this when I'm here, what do you like when I'm
Can
not?"
you imagine?
Right?
Yeah.
And I would be like, "Why does it smell like tuna?" And I'm like, "Oh, she's here." Oh, I had no filter. And it was just like,
Wow.
right, and he's like, "Well, she wants to stay and watch a movie." And I said, "I don't like horror movies. I don't want to see Freddy Krueger." Like it's just
It's so sad to me though, when I think I think about women like that. And you know, I was the people pleasing, codependent. I mean, how the hell did I end up in a 25-year relationship with a narcissist? Exactly for that reason. But looking at other women who fall for this crap, it makes me sad. I mean, even my own mother, you know, I saw after she had my brother, you know, the biological child she had with her husband. I mean, she did it back then. It was the Jane Fonda video, you know,
Yeah,
kick.
Raquel
Everybody
Welch.
had
Yeah.
yeah, all that. The Suzanne Summers, the Thigh
Thigh
Master. I'm like
Master.
making the motion. That's why it's because you had to squeeze and you were bobbing and getting your abs
The
and she
shake
was
weight.
yeah, that's the thing. The stepper, she had all of this and she was doing these videos and she was like desperately trying, like she would come in my closet and like try to fit in this because I was getting to be a teenager. I was like almost 14 when like just under 14 when my brother was born. But it's like she was trying to get back into the clothes that we used to share, you know, because we would buy clothes and it was for both of us because we were both the same size. And then she wasn't anymore because she was a mother again. And her body went to crap and she never recovered from it. But watching her, and like I didn't realize it back then, but like I never saw her eat. Very rarely. Not when we went to grandma's, holidays. Sometimes she'd make a plate, but at home, I mean, she didn't make anything for us half the time, but she never ate. And looking back, I'm like, God, so he wasn't just doing it to me. I mean, he was giving my mother a complex about her appearance. Yeah, I just wasn't hearing or really recognizing what I was seeing because I was so busy, you know, struggling to survive on my own. But yeah, they're very physical, and it's sad to see that so many women fall for it, whether they call you beautiful or they diminish your appearance, no matter what you look like, it's all crap. And they really need to start looking at themselves. But again, a narcissist is never going to acknowledge anything that could be perceived as any flaw, deficiency, weakness. Their ego cannot withstand that. So they think they're great. I wish I had that kind of self-esteem. Wouldn't mind
Right?
borrowing it for a minute, but you know, I'm okay with who I am. And thank God that you and I both survived what we did, that we have raised children very much opposite of how our parents
Yes.
raised us, and that they know that their parents love us or love them and that they're stable. And we just have to stop perpetuating this cycle. And I just appeal to anybody who's listening to this that if you see any of this in your life, don't ignore it. You know, don't
No.
think it's just a situation or, oh, like my mother used to say, oh, that's just how he is. Well, when he's abusive or he's an a-hole and he is causing a 6-year-old child to start developing an eating disorder, when he is causing you to have no self-esteem and diminishing your mental or physical capacity to take care of yourself or think that you can have a life. I mean, rethink it. Take
Yeah.
your power back.
Yeah.
Please, 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 because we survived it. We are living beautiful lives now. You don't have to stay in that muck. It can be better. You might have souvenirs like we do, whether they're physical or mental or both, most often both, but it's okay. It's part of who you are now, and you can still live a beautiful life.
I'm so glad you said that because, on the next uh, show, we need to talk about how to go from where they are, if they're in it currently, to how to get out and find themselves again and get back to who they are, but even
Yes.
better.
I love that because there's a lot there and there's a lot that people can do because I know that you want it out. I mean, you get to a point where you wake up, but you can't just walk out. People think
Right.
it's that easy and it's
It's
not.
not.
You need to plan, you need to be prepared. And especially when there's kids involved, you know, I also had animal things involved and there's a lot to it. And then there's
Yes.
a lot to finding yourself again. And it's an endless, I mean, we both still seek assistance to help
Yes.
us with whatever issues still come up because it's there's always some remnants there. You can get
Mhm.
better, you improve, healing always continues, and we're both in good places, but it never ends. And I don't want anyone to think that there's ever an end or a sense of perfection eventually.
But it
It's
gets better.
always going to be there, but it gets better. Exactly.
Absolutely. And lean on those people who get it. Like,
Yes.
I love this woman. And I tell her all the time, I'm like, I
Aw.
don't care if you want to yell, scream, cry, vent. You can have my shoulder. It's titanium. It's waterproof. I mean, I guess you could just, I'd give her my one hand, like, I don't care if she's having a bad day. We all need someone to vent and who
Yeah.
gets it, who understands it. And then I'll be like, why haven't I heard what's going on? What's wrong with you? And I'm that annoying, nagging person that I'm like, I want to know how you're doing, how you're feeling.
But that's not annoying. And I want to say one more thing, just because, while we are still in Suicide Prevention Month, I love that you're annoying, because you know what? It's when no, because no, and I'm not saying annoying because you think you're annoying, but what you are, I am feeling what you think is annoying is love to me. Because when I go quiet, and I know I am speaking for a lot of people out there that are listening that can relate to this, when I go quiet, there is something haunting me. There is
Right.
something going wrong. There is something wrong. And the second book, as you know, I have had a lot of, I didn't even know that I suppressed memories, because my memory is actually very, very sharp. Many people have commented on that. It's almost too sharp. But I didn't know that I could suppress memories, and memories were still resurfacing even after the book was finalized. And I have gone through a lot with it. And there are still moments, but I am not going to be hard on myself. And I want people to hear this, even though we'll talk about it more. Do not be hard on yourself. But if you have somebody who is asking who you are, and I love that, because that means you care. And I know I can count on you, and I'm not going to reach out to you because I'm a big girl and I got to do it on my own, because that's just who I am. I know we're all going to roll our eyes. I roll my eyes at myself half the time, but thank you for the persistence, because too many times people give up. And too many times when people give up and the phone stops ringing and the phone stops buzzing, because everybody just assumes you're fine and assumes you're busy, that's when bad stuff happens. That's when we start going down the rabbit hole, and that's when we start thinking things and some people act on it. And I never want that to happen. So I don't care if you think you're being annoying. I love you. But if you're listening and you're an annoying person like that, and that's fine, be annoying, persist. If you haven't heard from somebody in a while, you know what? It takes 2 seconds. Just say,
It
hey,
does.
how you doing? Haven't heard from you in a while.
I was
You
thinking about
have
you.
no idea. You literally might be saving a life. And I know that sounds dramatic, but it's not.
No,
In
it's
the
true.
end, that's the end of my PA. And I do love you. And thank you for being annoying. And you're not annoying.
Thank you for listening to this episode. And our next one is going to help you realize that you can be annoying. We could call each other the annoying sisters. So go get her book. I mean, I'm telling you, even if, and I don't know if you listen, I don't want to know, but like the podcast that my husband and I did on Sunday, I am like on and on. I'm like, she's such a great writer, and I can't wait to be here. And it's not here, and it's running late, and just like, ugh. And I'm like, this woman, and he's like, didn't she do Gasping for Air? I'm like, where have you been? And I'm like, yes, she did Gasping for Air. And he was like, how do you rate that book? And I was like, it's one of my top 10 favorites of all time. And I said, I'd say that to her. And I say that when she's not here.
You're
And
very sweet.
well, it's the
I
truth.
appreciate
It's the
that.
truth.
Well,
But
and
you
I'll
need to
have
go
one
get this
more.
book.
Well, thank you. And I want people to you have like, I know, but you make me look bad. I only have 2 books out. You have like what, 14 now? 13, 14? I know you're nodding your head like it's no big deal. Another trauma trait, by the way. Oh, it's no big deal. We'll just diminish my success. Oh my goodness.
That's how
That's
many.
a lot. Okay, she just gave me fingers, and not the middle finger though.
No, I didn't give her the middle finger. I told her how many books I've done, not plus and plus total. Like
Well,
that's the
apparently I'm
first digit,
dyslexic.
that's the
Yeah,
second digit.
41.
Yes.
Somebody go pick up one of her 41 books, please. But honestly, I've said this before, but all joking aside, if somebody is still actually listening to us, go to acontagiousmile.com, because if you go through your shop, for me, I'm a journal person, and you have a lot of really cool journals on there.
Go to the selfie store. Yeah,
There's dream journals, because I'm a total dream journalist. But even just like for your free writing, for your emotions, it's one of the best things you can do for your mental health, especially if you're still in a situation.
Yes.
It is one of the best things you can do for yourself. So pick up one of her journals, start free writing, and we'll talk to you more about all that stuff next time.
And their purpose, I want everybody to know, they're purposely written so that if you're still in that environment situation, your attacker, your abuser will not know, because it's done where you will know, and you'll know when you're reading it. but the layout of it and the covers are not going to give any indication at
Yeah, they're
all.
inconspicuous.
So
That's
they're
important.
yeah, absolutely. And between that site and Amazon, I wanted to be able to have people where I learned the hard way, and it's in Who Cooked First, where I had a book about how to get out and survive on my office, in my office, and he came in. And so I was like, I don't want that. So if people are at work or they're on their laptop or they're on their phone, they can download it and hide it in a file somewhere where there's all these other workbooks and things of that nature where you can go and get help and advice and daily
Yeah,
reminders of how wonderful you are. And so that's where this store comes in. And so you can go and get the digital downloads of things and not have to
that's
worry about the
amazing.
physical book being around.
Yeah, and thank you for pointing that out because that's part of why I did my books in ebook format as well as print because it's hard to have a book that says abuse on the front of it,
Yes.
just sitting around when you're in that situation. But we do have the digital formats for everybody to benefit from because we both have been there. And again, we'll talk about that more next time. But yes, definitely check out contagiousmile.com. You can go to my site, danasdiaz.com, connect with us on socials. We're all over there.
We're
So
everywhere.
we're everywhere. We try to be. We try to make ourselves known so that you don't have to speak up until you are comfortable. So we're speaking for you.
Absolutely. We got you. Thank you so much again, as always.
Love you, dear.
Love you.
Mwah.